Greetings, everybody. Welcome to today's session. Today is called Less Time Grading, More Time Teaching, and this is with Möbius's Grading Solutions. Thank you to everybody for taking the time out of your day to join, and for those of you who weren't able to join, we'll absolutely be sending this recording along to you. As we settle in and people are getting their coffee or getting a snack for wherever they are in the world, I do want to actually see where you're coming from. So I'm going to launch a quick poll. If you wouldn't mind submitting a quick response, I'm going to launch this. And I'm really just, we want to know, what's your experience so far with Möbius's Grading Solutions? What does this mean to you? So maybe you're already a Möbius Grading Solutions user. You're already using Möbius or Möbius Grading, and you're already a part of DigitalEd's family, and you're here to just see what else you can do. Or perhaps you're brand new to us and you just want to see what this means and how maybe you can fit these tools into your workflow. So yeah, take a moment to fill this in. Thanks to everybody so far who has submitted. And we'll just use this to let everybody settle in, just with clock differences and all those nuances of hosting webinars. That's great. Thanks, thank you. Give maybe another 5 more seconds here for people to filter in. Great. We've got 13 responses. Oh no, 9 responses. Great. Okay, cool. I'm going to end the poll, and this is pretty neat. I'm going to share the results. Hopefully you can see these. If not, I'll talk you through them anyways. We've got about a 50-50 split so far of the people who responded. So we've got half the people here who are, yep, they already use Möbius's Grading Solutions and just want to see what else is out there in terms of functionality. And then the other half is brand new to us. So this is great. I am confident that the panel that we have on with us today is going to give you something interesting that you'll be able to relate to and keep you engaged. So that's great. Thanks for your participation in that. So welcome to today's session. We're going to start by introducing our presenters, and then we're going to flip over to explain what we mean by Möbius's Grading Solutions. What does this mean to you? How can you fit it into your workflow? We're then going to throw it over to Jonny LaMaster. He's one of our wonderful customer guests that has been willing to take the time to join us on this call today and present. He's going to take us through how he uses low stakes practice inside of Möbius's Grading Solutions. And then we'll switch it over to Carl and Stefan from the DigitalEd team, and they're going to talk more about the high stakes assessment side of Möbius. And then we're going to finish up with Jonny, again from the DigitalEd team, and he's going to touch on paper-based grading. Then, of course, we always want to hear from you. So throughout this entire session, please toss any comments you have in the chat. That's always great. But then we're also going to have a Q&A session as well. And then we've got a mystery bonus session right at the very end. So we're going to keep you on your seat, or keep you tied on the edge. What's that phrase? Keep you on the edge of your seat until the very end, because we've got something exciting to share right at the end. So welcome, and I know that by now everybody's probably an expert at Zoom webinars, but I'm just going to remind you about some things anyways. Like I said, please participate in the chat. We want to hear from you. Please, let us know where you're from, or if some funny story, whatever, throw it in the chat. It's always good to see. But if you do have a specific question, make sure you put that in the Q&A window of your Zoom. Instead, so that way we for sure get to the questions. And so we'll be spending the last little bit on the Q&As. And remember that these questions can be for anybody on the call. It can be for Jonny LaMaster, or it can be from anybody from the DigitalEd team. So make sure you stick those questions into the Q&A box. And by the end of today's webinar, we've got a couple of goals that we're going to achieve together. So we're going to make sure that the group here is aware of what we mean by Möbius's Grading Solutions, and we'll give you some insights into how you can actually use them in your current workflows if you're not already using them. And if you are already using them, we might be showing you something new that you might be excited about. Next is, it's important that when you're choosing a grading solution that, yes, you're choosing it so that it's effective for you as a faculty member or your team, right, when you're doing the grading, but it's also equally important that it's beneficial to your students. So we'll show you that how these tools inside of Möbius and Möbius Grading are both beneficial to you and your students. And then we're going to get into, you'll eventually see throughout this webinar that what we mean by less time grading, more time teaching, means that we've got some efficiencies built into these tools to make sure that, yes, we're absolutely aware that grading is so important when it comes to teaching, but we help you get through that grading more efficiently so that you can really focus on your teaching. And then we're going to finish with some additional resources so that you know where to go if you want to learn more about anything that we've presented today. So our presenters, first we're going to start with John LaMaster. He is joining us from Purdue University Fort Wayne in Indiana, USA. He's from the Department of Mathematical Sciences over there. He's an instructor. He's been teaching for 34 years. Absolutely incredible. We are so lucky to have such an experienced instructor and such a passionate person on the call with us, and so lucky that he took the time out. Oh, my lights went off. We have a nice, we're conscientious here at the DigitalEd office. So we are
an angelic presence joined the room, it looks like.
That's right, John. So we are so lucky that that John was able to join us today. He's busy traveling and teaching and still set some time aside to present with us. So he's been a Möbius user for more than 15 years. And for those of you who know the history of Möbius, it used to be called Maple TA. So pretty cool that he's been with us for our entire journey. And what he loves most about Möbius is the automatic grading and the immediate student feedback. So those benefits to his workflow and to his students. And we're just, again, so grateful that we have such a passionate evangelist for Möbius as the tool of choice for instantaneous web-based assessments. So thanks for joining us today, John.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. And then we've got our DigitalEd team. I'm going to start in the bottom left here. We've got Jonny Zivku. He's our director of product marketing. He has over 10 years of experience in digital learning software. And he's the voice of the customer here at DigitalEd and excels at translating customer requirements into improvements to DigitalEd's online learning solution. We then got these other two wonderful gentlemen on the right there. We've got Hickman and Stefan Boecker. Don't worry, I know you see the word developer in their titles. You don't need to be a developer to understand what they're going to show. You don't need to be a developer to use Möbius. We just wanted to have these two wonderful people on our call because they have been with DigitalEd for a long, long time working with Möbius. We just want to show you that on the DigitalEd team, we've got a team full of passionate people who want to share their excitement of our products with you. And they've been with us for a long time, so they've got great expertise and are really excited to show you what they know and what Möbius can do. And so Hickman, he's our senior full stack developer whose formal training is in mathematics, and he has a passion for helping our customers get the most out of our STEM products for teaching STEM education, originally as an application engineer and content specialist, and then later as a developer contributing directly to the code base. And then we've got Stefan Boecker. He's our senior QA automation developer. Stefan has been with DigitalEd since its inception, so it's been a while. And he's always striving to deliver a stable, high quality, user-friendly product that enhances the teaching and learning experiences of instructors and students. And then we've got me up in the top left. I'm Chelsea Ranville. I began here at DigitalEd as a technical writer where I learned all about the details of our products. And then I eventually transitioned into my role as a product marketer where I now get to brag about our products. So thanks to the DigitalEd team and as well to John, I'm joined by a wonderful, wonderful panel. So let's get into it. So when we talk about Möbius's grading solutions, what do we mean when we say that? So we've got three main products that support gradings, that act as grading solutions that you can choose from. First, on the left, we've got Möbius. This offers comprehensive digital course delivery, student practice, and automatic grading of digital assessments. And it's backed by a sophisticated math engine, which empowers users to deliver highly sophisticated STEM questions. So you can ask things like algorithmic questions and open-ended questions, and they're automatically graded. And you can even use these questions and this content inside of your lessons for things like comprehension checks as you're trying to convey concepts. Then in the middle, we've got Möbius Grading. This is for collaboratively grading paper-based assessments, but it enables you to do this grading digitally. So incredibly powerful. Johnny's going to get into this a little bit more near the end, but you can imagine that if you have a stack of 100 papers, if you can do that maybe digitally, there's going to be some great savings there in terms of your time and mental energy. And then on the far right, we've got the Möbius MAA placement test suite. So this also offers automatic grading and very, very capable and sophisticated STEM question asking ability, but it's targeted for gauging entry-level student math foundational skills so that they are enrolled into the appropriate first-year math courses. And so this is backed by the MAA, which is the Mathematical Association of America, very renowned organization matched with Möbius, a very capable tool. And so this combination is really excellent for placement. Our session today is really just focusing on the left two, so Möbius and Möbius grading. The reason is that placement is a very niche case. It's very specific for placement. So if this interests you and this is something you want to discuss, our team can absolutely connect with you. But today's session is going to be focusing on Möbius and Möbius grading. And then as a final note here, all three of these solutions generate detailed analytics that are actually navigable and actionable. And the team's going to show you a little bit as we get into the actual showcases. And so the premise of our webinar today, less time grading, more time teaching. How do our tools actually accomplish this? So there's 4 main pillars that support this statement. So first is that you're really creating your assessments once, right? In all of the tools, in Möbius and Möbius Grading, you're creating them once. You can copy from them, you can pull from them, you can edit them, you have free range to just work from that as a template if you want. And you may have multiple assessments that you can create, and then all of those, and then can just branch out into duplicates and really a ton of time savings there. So that's a really great asset. Next is the automatic grading and feedback delivery capabilities of these tools. And so the fact that your students can have this self-paced yet guided navigation through their graded results, this is really, really powerful, and also gives you back time in your busy teaching schedule. Next is the streamlined review when it comes to looking at student responses and student grades. So we've got these technologies that are designed to make this easier for you to navigate, and tools and functionalities that help with bulk editing, and just so a lot of time savings and energy and resource and energy savings for you there. And the last one really leans into Möbius Grading, which is the paper-based tool that we're going to get into. And this is just again, you can picture this stack of 100 papers, and you just want to grade one question at a time. And what I mean by that is you've got your lens focused on question 5. You just want to grade question 5 for all of your students. So if you have a stack of papers, you have to flip to page 2 for 100 papers and grade question 5, right? So you can imagine that that's just one very explicit example, but you can imagine that if you're then doing that digitally, and Jonny's going to get into this, you can just look at all of question 5 for all of your students all at once. So huge resource and time savings again. And so Jonny's going to get into that. So that's where we come. That's where we end up with. That's how we end up with less time grading and more time teaching. And before I unleash our wonderful panel, I'm actually going to launch one more poll here. So we are just curious about what type of grading do you or your faculty do? So let me pull up this second poll here. So again, please take a quick moment to submit this response. Maybe you're doing paper-based pen and paper grading, so very traditional, or perhaps you're doing paper-based bubble sheet grading, again, kind of with that more traditional aspect. Maybe you're doing online assessments that are manually graded. Maybe you're doing online assessments that are automatically graded, or something else. If there's something else, please stick it in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. If maybe there's a scenario that we didn't cover, it would be great to see. Great, we've got some responses coming in. Okay, the bubble sheet, I see the bubble sheet. Nobody is speaking to the bubble sheet yet, but that's, again, we're still excited to touch on that functionality, so it's great. Okay, great. I'll maybe give you 5 more seconds, group. Thanks for the responses. I love this spread. All right, thank you. I'm going to end the poll. I'll share the results here. So again, if you hopefully you can see those, but we've got the automatically graded online assessments, is the leader there, which is great because that is the bulk of our presentation today, but we do have some other functionalities to show. Paper-based pen and paper, yes, absolutely. Jonny's going to touch on that. So this is great. Thanks for this. And yeah, I'll check out the chat to see what if somebody submitted their answer there. So that's great. Thank you for your participation. So with that, John, I think I'm going to pass it over to you. John, let's hear all about your low stakes practice. I'll stop my share.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. I want to share with everyone not only why I love Möbius, but why my students love Möbius, and they have used everything. So all the other platforms if you've been around the block, and I won't name their names, but they've tasted everything off the buffet, and they said Möbius is their favorite. And I'd like to share with you why that's the case. And what I'd like to point out is if you're like me, you have a lot of class time that you're trying to make sure you're using as efficiently as possible. And this is a course that I've used Möbius in, which is a face-to-face course where there's paper and pencil grading, but I've also used Möbius in a digital course, an online course, excuse me, which has everything online. And I start off in my course sharing with students about low stakes grading. And some of this is listed right here, so you can see, and I'm happy to share anything with you after the webinar if you reach out to me, and there'll be contact information later. But the two things that are the highest thing that makes students love Möbius is these flashcards and what I call just for practice sets, which in Möbius would be called anonymous practice. And the reason is cognitive science helps our students know how to learn by taking items from short-term memory to long-term memory. And so the flashcards enable you to do that. And then retrieval practice, and there's some links to show what that means, is when you are looking at the set of questions that you're getting ready for the quiz, but you may not know which to draw from out of your memory bank. What do you retrieve? And so they get it all mixed up, and there's ways where you can practice that as well. So if you look at the scrolling below, this is ghosted because this is a former course, but I have these things called flashcards in there. And one of the funniest things that has happened for many of my students is they'll walk in and they're used to a course where all that they did was sit and watch the professor do the homework and in front of them, or do examples, and they say, please, I want some more. And I don't know if you're like this, but how many times have you had a student say, more gruel, please? And the great thing about Möbius is that it enables that need to be met without any work on your part. So it frees me from my class time now is affected within how I spend it, and not just what I do outside of class time. Sure, outside of class time, I have less time with the red pen if I'm asking Möbius to grade things. But if I went right now to law of sines or law of cosines, look what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit start here, and this is just anonymous. They can pick any of these on their own, and I will tell you that some of my students even say, who have really excelled, I hit try another and a different one comes up. And so they're really getting a whole different way of seeing a bunch of problems. And I'll say, well, all right, how did you get such a good grade on this assessment, this paper and pencil assessment? And they'll be honest. They'll say, John, and they call me John, it's not you, it's Möbius. And I said, tell me what you mean. And it said, well, I spent, and this is literally last week, someone told me this, I spent 48 hours just doing flashcards over and over. Notice they can put their number in, but look at this. It shows the entire worked out solution for them, and they can either use their own paper and pencil notes, and they can see which one to do first. So it's more than just Google and grab and get an answer to put in the box. Now, are they getting any points for this? 0. This isn't just low stakes, this is no stakes. And I have had some faculty think that they were kind of surprised at, oh my goodness, why would they do this if there's no points? And it made sense to me after I thought about it. So many of our students come in with learning gaps, or they're afraid to answer a question because it will out them. And when they ask a question and they get it wrong, then they get a negative reinforcement, oh, now they feel bad. And here, they can get it wrong in their pajamas at 3 a.m. and there's no reason for them to have any risk. So what's so cute about this is that doing this over and over, it's just between them and Möbius. And when they say to me, it wasn't you, John, it was Möbius, really, this is me. And I'm going to go actually to review here. They can actually see, this is just me in digital form, round the clock, electronically. Now, I'm going to show you one of the cool kind of questions that can be done. Möbius is so powerful because not only can I have Möbius be able to grade every kind of equivalent expression of this, but it will also have coding underneath it. I can make it so that, this is a simple example here of, it can have coding under this that says, I'm only going to take this if you put it in factored form. And then I can get one of these that's, isn't this amazing that you can get any kind of session here. I'm going to stick in this one. And it goes through x minus, I'm going to get it wrong purposely and write it in factored form and show that this p here will actually help them plot the thing. And oh, it didn't like it because I put an x in there because I was typing. Okay, and now I'll put it in and delete that and put a negative in. That's what I wanted. And it didn't like this. So what I can now ask is put the x in, and I can see that what will happen is as I put these in, I can get the plot to show, and I'll put in the 200, and there we go. And oh, all right, that's cute. It will actually plot whatever I stick in, and it is going to probably like it. And there we go. It's hiding.
Oh, it's being cranky for you today, John. But
It's being
ultimately,
shy, but I'm going to show that what it wanted was something like this. And so I would have stuck in an x minus 200 in there. But thank you for helping that out. And I can stick in anything in here and get the, actually, I'm rehearsing this, so of course it's live, it's going to be funny with me. But you can have alternative forms in this. So one of the things that it'll do is it'll check my work. And I'm going to actually show you another thing that I mentioned earlier. It's called the just for practice. And this is adorable because these are back to retrieval practice. And I'm going to go to trig identities, which is everyone's favorite. Yes, you and I know. And look at this. We have a hint. So you can actually click on the hint and try to get everything in terms of same trig function. And then an extra hint if you want. And I can decide if I want a penalty or not. And even more fun, how did I do? And it'll actually show the worked out solution, again, just for practice. But what I love about this is very small in terms of numbers. There's only little 6 questions in here. And the view details, if I walked through these questions, will actually, after I submit, it nagged me because it said you didn't put anything in it. But it'll give me all these worked out examples. So there's what's lovely is about Möbius is it enables me to get almost a replacement of a textbook and saving me that hassle because I'm able to, my students have said I don't need a textbook. In fact, one of the times I had only 1 minute left with class and I said, you and I know if I could spend another 5 minutes with you, I could do another example. And one of my students said, that's okay. Möbius will teach me. And I was like thrilled because it's like you're using Möbius the way I want you to. And you know how students learn to do math? By doing math. Just like the way you and I learn how to sing is by opening our mouth and singing. And because I can do this with no stakes practice, I will have, or low stakes, I'll have an opportunity to get it wrong, not feel bad in front of other people, but feel bad because what happens is every time I make a mistake, which I actually had to demonstrate to you and show you that, that what will be exciting is they learn it more and they take it for the test. So the last thing I want to share with you is the thing that's most on people's minds is when you have artificial intelligence getting the answer, and then all students do are just getting points for and so here's this lady. This is called doing we call it e-homework instead of Möbius, earning points. Instead of points, we're just doing it for the we're just only doing it for points and not for learning. All comfort and joy. It's such a great ride. Oh, if only I had a camera because it's, turn of the century. But then it comes time to a paper and pencil quiz. Oh, the humanity, you know, this is what we get. Because it didn't stick. It wasn't learned. It was just done for only the points. So the student who did 48 hours actually got a perfect score on their exam, and they attribute it to Möbius and doing their flashcards. I'm going to stop sharing because this does have a sad ending if you aren't using Möbius the right way or any other software the right way. But the good ending is it's the tool of choice. In fact, I would say it is the choice that I would always use for any type of assessment because it enables pooling for you to be able to have a robust way to take the mathematics outside the classroom in your pajamas at 3 in the morning.
That was a great showcase, John. Thank you. And I love that the algorithms, the randomization, the pooling, right? That supports your, hey, you know, I built this stuff and it kind of runs itself, right? And the students have that, can take it, can go through it themselves. They've got all the support they need there in terms of the how did I do, the full solutions, the hints. So that was wonderful. Yeah. Thanks for that demonstration. I also, you know, the morbid visual at the end. Yes, but it's powerful, right? It's representative of it, making sure that students understand how to get the right answer instead of memorizing.
Well, and it's almost a metaphor because students are actually used to, oh, what'd you get on your test? I got a 30. And it's like the usual, oh yeah, well, that's with the Hindenburg. But then they think, you know, they'll just get it curved. And, you know, they're getting hundreds now.
That's wonderful. And I love your use case of that one student who, yeah, you know what, they took the time to do the practice and they, you know, they reap the benefits of that. That's wonderful.
They're my best convincing argument for any faculty member.
Pretty powerful. Absolutely. Thanks for that, John. That's great. So we've had that wonderful showcase of our low stakes practice and, you know, like the students doing the practice at 3 a.m. in their pajamas. Let's shift it over now. I'm going to pass it over to Carl and Stefan, and they're going to switch gears a little bit to focus now on the high stakes assessment. So, okay, you know, maybe they're still doing it at 3 a.m., but the stakes are a little bit different because now we're talking about maybe a final exam or a midterm, right? Something where it's got that grade attached to it. So, Carl, let's pass it over to you.
Okay, I've shared my screen. Hopefully everyone can see it.
Very well, yes.
Thank you. So I think before jumping right into a high stakes test, I'd just like to spend a couple more moments just drawing a little bit more attention to just some of the power and flexibility that you get with our automatic grading, which tends to free up time for instructors to focus on other things. So in particular, you can create algorithmic questions in Möbius. So what that means is just by creating one question and putting some variables in it, let's say for these coefficients here, different students who take the assignment can get different versions of the question. Right? So here I'm just previewing the question as an instructor. If I were to click refresh, watch what happens to the coefficients in this expression. So one student might get the 10x minus 8, another student minus 13x minus 6, and so on. So by creating an algorithmic questions, you can cut down on the cheating by having different students see different versions of the question. And another key point here is that you're not limited to basic true, false, or multiple choice type questions. You can actually do what we call free response questions, where students can enter math input the way they're used to doing it, using our equation editor. I'll just put in a simple answer here. And let's do a how did I do, like we saw John do earlier. And if you want, you can show the students the correct answer. You don't have to. And so I'd just like to show you just a little bit more on that. So not only can you do free response, but also very open-ended questions. So I think this is a key point to look at here. I think with the vast majority of systems out there, you're really limited to saying, you know, as the question author or the instructor, you're saying, you know, here is the answer to the question. So there's only sort of one correct answer. As you can see here, there's actually a whole infinity of correct answers, right? So with the powerful math engine that's behind this, you're actually able to grade certain features or properties of the student's input. So here we want to check that the student entered a function that's increasing and concave up on this interval, right? So you can look for things like, hey, is the first derivative positive in this interval? And similarly for the second derivative. And then just do the grading from there. So if I were to put something like this.
And Carl, while you're doing that, I think another important aspect to point out here is the functionality of the equation editor, where students, I know you're showing this as an maybe, you know, an instructor preview, but even when students are working with this type of question, they've got access to that symbolic entry.
That's a great point. Yeah, you can go, you got various shortcuts here for the various symbols, and even much more sophisticated mathematics is possible, matrices and so on through the equation editor. That's a great point, Chelsea. So yeah, I entered a function here, click how did I do, let's say, and this happened to be correct. If I were to put something wrong, then we've got, this is obviously incorrect. What about something maybe in between where we got kind of part of the answer right? Maybe I'll do something like a square root of x minus 6. So this one, notice the highlight here turned to like a yellow color. It's indicating it's sort of partly right. But what do we get right here? Well, I guess you know, the fact that it's increasing, right? But it's concave down, so we didn't get the whole thing right. And if I were to actually click grade here, notice we're giving part marks for this question. You're in complete control of that, right? So if you wanted to say, hey, if they got the monotonicity correct, we'll give half marks. If they got the concavity right, we'll do another half marks. You're in complete control actually of the grade that you give to your students as well. As John showed you, you can do a full solution for your students. And I just like to just add to that and say that when you put an algorithm in your question, the actual solution can be tailored to the specific version the student got, right? So this student got x bigger than 6, and sure enough, the solution is centered around that as well.
That would be pretty valuable, I would say, Carl, right? Because a student doesn't then need to interpret what the feedback is saying and then kind of extrapolate that to the version of the question they saw. So it's a nice one-to-one match for your students.
Absolutely right. So instead of saying something generic like, here's how to solve a similar problem, you can actually do it, you know what, here's how to solve the exact problem that you got. It's a great point, Chelsea. So yeah, and of course you can use any of these kinds of questions in a high stakes test. So let's pretend, for example, we want to do maybe a remote midterm. So I've got something set up here. And we've got this one set up to use what we call our proctored browser. And what this will do is we'll actually put the assignment into full screen mode. So that way, if the student tried to, let's say, switch over to another screen, maybe to cheat, things like that, they would actually get kicked out of the assignment, and an email could actually be sent to the instructor. And the student would actually have to get reauthorized to get back in, right? So it's just a few safeguards there to cut down on the cheating. And I'd also like to mention too that, you know, right now I happen to be logged into Möbius directly, but we can actually integrate with your learning management system, right? So from your own school's learning management system, you can actually have links into Möbius, you know, either to a class or an assignment like you're seeing here, or maybe a link to the grade book, things like that. So let's go start our assignment. Notice how we're now into full screen mode. This is the question we saw earlier, so I won't spend much time on that. This other one too, I put into the question. Here's another interesting little example where you can actually have students either draw a sketch themselves or manipulate an existing sketch that you put on the screen, right? So here we have this sort of supply and demand curve. And based on this question, the idea here is that we want the student to kind of drag the curve to the right spot, right? So in this case, the right thing to do would be to drag it 3 units to the left. So you can do that. It doesn't have to be exact. That would be close enough. And we're asking the student to drag their equilibrium point as well. So this would be sort of where the curve should end up. Okay, so you've got sketch type questions you can give to your student. You know, in physics or engineering, very common type of question is free body diagrams. So you can actually have an image showing up here, and students can click and drag their forces, things like that.
And Carl, even for those like really visual interactive questions, like how does the grading work for those types of questions?
Yeah, so for even those are automatically graded as well. So what you can do, for instance, like with a free body diagram type of question, you set up the correct answer as the question author. And then basically Möbius will use our math engine to do a comparison between the forces that you drew as the instructor and the forces that the student drew. And you've got some flexibility as well. You can say, you know what, as long as the student, let's say they were within maybe three degrees of the correct answer. So it doesn't have to be exact. There's some flexibility there, some room for error built into it as well. So lots of tools built into to help with that grading. And so the instructor can just say something like they set that tolerance, maybe 3 or 5 degrees of margin of error. Not have to worry too much about those details because Möbius can deal with that behind the scenes. The instructor can just focus on basically setting up the correct answer. And maybe another thing worth highlighting too is that, with a lot of systems, this notion of a fill in the blank question really is limited to just, text blanks or maybe drop downs. But as you can see in Möbius, you can have a question with any number of what we call response areas, and you can mix and match the different types. So here, for example, is a mathematical type of response area. Earlier, we saw the equation editor. A second option would be to have students just typing it in like that. Of course, you can do drop downs. Here's a multiple choice, and you notice even the choices themselves can be plots that you generate, right? So you can mix and match the different sort of response types within one question. And the last question is similar, so I won't spend time on that. And as John showed you earlier, you can submit the assignment. Of course, we didn't answer all the questions, that's okay. And again, I'll just mention briefly that you can control how much feedback you give. So do you want to show the students their score? Maybe not. Or maybe you'd like to withhold that until some later date. And would you like to show students the actual solutions to the questions? Would you like to show them the correct answers? All of those things are within your control, within the actual policies of your assignment, which I think Steve will touch on. So I think with that, I will actually pass it over to Steve.
Thanks, Carl. That was great.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I trust you can see my screen.
We can, Stefan.
Great. So today I'll provide a brief overview of grading features in Möbius, specifically the gradebook, activity grading view, regrading, question stats, and analytics. But before I get into that, I want to take a moment to show you some of the options for controlling feedback in an assignment. Okay, so I'm just going to the properties here. Scrolling down, we see there are quite a few options available for feedback both during and after the assignment. So during would be things that were featured earlier, like showing hints and the how did I do buttons. You also have the ability to restrict feedback until a specified date and time, and you can set custom grading messages, pass or fail messages as well. All right, let's jump to the gradebook. So here top center, we have all the lessons and assignments in the class. We can filter them by unit. And we also have some other filtering options available to refine your search. And this cluster of checkboxes here controls what fields are available in the results table here. So right now we're just seeing the student name, the grade they attained on the chosen assignment. So if you click on the assignment name, you actually get a question by question breakdown of the scores. And this leads me to the activity grading view. So this view is ideal for working with, a grading team. So it was designed to make it easy for multiple instructors and TAs to review and grade responses that can't be automatically graded, like essays. And
Stefan, sorry to interrupt you. Would you mind zooming in just a touch?
Sure.
I think that's better. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, this is really handy when your assignment has a mixture of automatically and manually graded questions. So really, this is a question-focused view. You can see up top, we have the questions we can select. This table on the left shows the attempts that have been submitted for the question. And on the right side, you get the graded responses. So this question is similar to one that Carl was showing earlier. It's comprised of multiple response areas, each of which have been automatically graded. It shows us the student's response, kind of highlighted in green here to indicate, and a green check mark to indicate that it was answered correctly. There's one highlighted in red because it was answered incorrectly. And next to it, you see the correct response. And now, just because these were automatically graded, doesn't mean that you're stuck. You can freely change any grade to individual response areas or even the entire question. And if you were to select multiple students, you could use bulk grading as well. We also have another handy feature here that's comments. So here you could input a comment, and this would be specific to this question for the selected student. And they would see that in their gradebook when that feedback was made available. Now, the standout feature of this activity grading view really is that it's updated live. So you might picture working with multiple people grading the assessment. Let's say I'm dealing with question 1 and others will deal with the remainder. We can see beneath the question number, we have a check mark. So that's an indicator that every submitted attempt has been graded. If that weren't the case, if there were still attempts that required my attention, it would be shown as a blank checkbox. Now, when working with multiple people, when that state changes, say I've now graded all attempts and I've gone from the blank checkbox into the check mark, that is reflected on everybody else's screen. So you get a real sense of progress in grading the whole assessment. Okay, the next feature I'd like to speak about is regrading. So I'm just jumping back to the gradebook. So this time I'm going to select a student's particular test record. Now, let's say that after students have completed a test or assignment, you realize there was a problem with one of the questions. So Möbius lets you correct the question and then regrade it. So this will actually update every instance. Every student who has seen that question will have their grades updated based on the latest revision. And now, for the purposes of this demo, I've already revised the problematic question here. Now I want to see what effect that'll have on student scores. So by locating it in one of the student's test records, I can click the regrade button. And we see Möbius is now recalculating. And you see how quickly it's regrading all of these attempts. And we have a color coding here. So the red indicates their current score will decrease. If their score were to increase, we will highlight that in green, and yellow for where there have been no changes. Now, I really want to stress here that no changes have actually been made to the grades yet. You do have to submit these. So to do that, you have to explicitly select the revision, then the button to make these changes is enabled. And you can choose to submit all these changes or only those that would result in student grades increasing. So as you can see, this is a powerful feature where with just a few clicks, you can quickly recalculate and update many grades. All right, the next feature I want to highlight is that of item statistics. So this provides data about how students are performing on individual questions. So it'll show you things like how many times the question has been seen in an assignment, how many times it was answered correctly, how many times answered incorrectly. So from this, you can infer how effective questions are. If everybody is getting something wrong, it might indicate there's a problem with the question itself, or maybe that topic is just not well understood.
And also, yeah, Stefan, I want to add that we also have some great resources that get into the explanations of how to work with this data. So we'll be sharing that later following the webinar, but definitely some resources to guide people.
Yeah, thanks, Chelsea. Well, the final thing I want to show here is Möbius Analytics. So anytime students are logged into the system, we're capturing some analytics, things like student X launched assignment 1, navigated to question number 2, they checked their work, they click try again, and so forth. So we use Google's Looker Studio to visualize these analytics. We've separated them into multiple dashboards. And this kind of gives you various insights, things like, when are students accessing Möbius? Where are they spending their time while, in activities or just in the system in general? Gives you some averages on how long they're spending on specific assignments or questions within assignments. You see there are a lot of filters available here too. You can choose one or more classes. You can make selections based on user role, date ranges, and depending on the dashboard, you can even select individual assignments and questions. And not only are these available for, graded assessments, they're also available for lessons and interactive narratives. So that concludes my overview of some of the grading features available in Möbius. I'll stop my sharing and turn it back to you, Chelsea.
That's great. Thanks, Stefan. And thanks, Carl, yeah, for that showcase. So nice contrast to show that, okay, you can take some deeper dives into student performance, raise the stakes to really test student comprehension through these automatically graded assessments. So thanks for that. But still, even though they're automatically graded, you still get that fine control with manual grading and grade editing. That's great. I'm going to pass it over to Jonny now, and we're going to, again, switch gears on you one more time. And this time, Jonny's going to talk about the Möbius grading and when it comes to paper-based grading. So yes, we had the digital assessment shown by John, Carl, and Stefan, but now what happens when you actually have that in-person, a physical paper to be graded? Let's see what you got, Jonny.
All right, can you hear me now?
We can.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so okay, I have Möbius grading open on my screen, and like Chelsea mentioned, I'll just spend a few minutes showcasing how you provide feedback to students, and then some of the analytics and data that are available to you as a marker or teacher of a course. So right now, this is Möbius grading. I'm going to go to what's called the feedback screen. This is where you actually give feedback to students, and as Chelsea mentioned, at the beginning of this presentation, Möbius grading is intended for collaboratively working together to digitally grade pen and paper, homework or exams that were scanned into Möbius grading. So it really is meant to accelerate the grading process that you're probably all accustomed to through grading parties and doing it by hand. However, it's also meant to streamline the grading, make it more efficient, make it more equal, less concerns and disagreements from students. So on my screen right here, you'll notice that I'm in the view now. On the right-hand side is how I navigate through different students who have submitted their exam to Möbius. And this particular exam, you can see has 3 questions. Now, the first few students here don't have any scores attached to it, so I'll be using those as examples. So starting with question 2, here's question 1. Here's the student's response. They wrote it out right there on the screen. The first thing I want to talk about is this quick grade feature on the right. This is meant for, I would consider more low stakes assessments, maybe weekly homework or quizzes, but you can do either, positive grades or negative grades, and this range is customizable, so bear that in mind. But if you choose a positive grade, notice that your grade starts at 0. If I put a 1 here on my screen, notice the grade is now 1 out of 10. And as I progress through that, the student score is updating in real time on the top left, and I'm just giving credit where credit is due. So this student got 7 out of 10. Now, the converse is also true. Maybe I want to start with a perfect score, but take away where they made errors. I can do that as well. So for example, if I put a -1 here, notice the score is not 10 out of 10, but 9 out of 10. And I can take away 2 points, so it's 7 out of 10. Take away 4 points for a big error, now they get 3 out of 10. So that's a very easy way to illustrate to the student where they got credit or where they lost credit, and their scores updated in real time. But perhaps you want to give them a little bit more information, a little bit more annotations, if you would. That's possible too, using some of this information at the top of my screen. So we have the pencil icon. This allows you to freehand draw or circle or whatever you want to do here on the screen to tell the student something with the annotations. You can also highlight. So here I can highlight maybe things that they did well or just things I want to bring their attention to on the screen. We also support, though, check marks and X's. Again, these are just annotations. This doesn't actually give the student a score, right, per se, but it is giving the student some visual cue as to, okay, here's where you did well, or here's where you made some mistakes. Now, what I really love is this middle feature. It's the note or comment feature. Here you can type in anything like with text or LaTeX or even images like JPEG or PNG format, but you can tell the student, great work, applied the theorem just fine. And I can save this for further use. I can share it with other graders across the board. And what I can also do, though, is give a score. So this is worth 3 points. Now, what happens is this comment is added to my comment library then on the left-hand side. There is the bottom, 3 points for theorem. And I can now click on the screen, and it'll put that right there where I type it. Maybe I want to add another one of my saved, comments like so, and I'll also then put it there. And notice the score in the top left of each comment corresponds to the student's score of 5 out of 10. And what's great is these comments can be shared with all the other graders. So when you're grading question 1 for all students, I'll go to student 3 for question 1. The comments are there. I can continue. I don't have to retype them out. I don't have to remember what the value was for each comment. It's automatically there to really provide a true, equitable, and fair grading process. A few other things to mention on my screen before I forget is this button right here. This allows me to actually record my screen and my audio. If I want to explain something in more detail or show them something, this is great for for accessibility reasons, but also if you just want to be a bit more interactive in nature with your grading and feedback process. So with that in mind, I also mentioned that I want to showcase some of the analytics available. So for a generic, what I would call regular question, a non-multiple choice question, if you would, this button allows me to see, the distribution of the scores. Out of 10, how many students got which number of scores? That's available to me. But maybe it's a multiple choice. And to go back here, I didn't cover this, but the question 3 here is multiple choice. If I go to, for example, student 7 and go to question 3, this was automatically graded by Möbius. So it's a great replacement for Scantron. Doesn't require specialty paper or printers. It's all done automatically for you in Möbius grading. Now, each correct score here is worth 2 points, so they got 12. This student, they got almost perfect. They got, 13 correct, so their score is 26, but this is automatically graded. So we have some great data on that as well. Of course, we have what I just mentioned, a nice histogram of the distribution of the score, but also if I click on this button here in the bottom left, it gives me a much greater detailed breakdown of the difficulty and discrimination analysis, as well as distribution of responses available to know which responses were chosen most versus not the most, for example. So thank you for your time. Hopefully that was a quick flavor of what Möbius grading is capable for when it comes to transforming the grading process for pen and paper assessments. Over to you, Chelsea.
Yeah, thanks, Jonny. And that's great. I know you flew through that, but it was effective. There's other thing, like some other additions to the workflow of Möbius grading is collaboration is a really big deal in there. So say I was in there alongside Jonny working on that assignment, you would see there's a little indicator that pops up to show that there's multiple people in there grading at the same time. So really powerful that way. And, you don't need to exchange papers back and forth. Everything's online, right? Yes, it was done physically on paper, but it's available online. And keyboard shortcuts are a huge feature of Möbius grading as well, where you don't have to use your mouse as much as you want. You can use your entire keyboard. Almost every function inside of Möbius grading can have a keyboard shortcut to speed things up. And so hopefully you can see, if you just wanted to grade question 3 for all your students, how easy that is to just fly through question 3 or question 2, I guess, in this case, fly through question 2 instead of flipping paper to paper. So thanks for that showcase, Jonny. Let me jump back to our demonstration here, or our slide. What am I trying to say? To the deck here. I'll pull this back up. And so now it's one of our favorite times of webinars is Q&A. We want to hear from you. We have some Q&A questions. We had some questions come into our box, so thanks for your participation and for your engagement. And remember that these questions can be for John or the team. And so let's get into it. We did have some great questions come up in the chat that the team helped handle as we went through. So thanks for that. I am going to open up the Q&A here, and John Craighead is curious about more information regarding the cheating prevention on the lock screen. So this is focusing on that proctored browser aspect of things. This is definitely a powerful feature and important for test integrity. And I can actually feel this one because I've done a lot of digging into what this means for our customers. So the Möbius proctored browser mode as a part of the proctored exam assignment type that Carl and Stefan showed. It's an excellent cheating deterrent as it prevents students from accessing secondary tabs and screens outside of their actual Möbius exam tab. But in addition to that, Möbius also offers several other capabilities to promote the integrity of your remote exam. So things like algorithmic questions, as the team touched on, question randomization, right? So if you can create a question pool and Möbius pulls from that question pool so that the same sequence of questions isn't being seen. You have control over the level of feedback. You can do gated access to make sure that only students through proctored sign-in, right? The proctor has to actually authorize students to access the test. Once a student is in there, and if they do get kicked out, you'll get a notification to your email to say, hey, this student got kicked out. You need to authorize them back in. So a lot of fine control over that. And another thing to point out is that realistically, I don't think anybody's going to deny that no solution is perfect for preventing cheating, but there's definitely very, very powerful and effective deterrents, like I mentioned. But one additional step that you can take is in Möbius specifically, we do actually have a partnership with companies like ProctorU, Examity, Proctorio, and HonorLock. So these are third-party proctoring services that have their own built-in tools that are specifically designed for proctoring. So those can be integrated with your Möbius proctored exam to really, again, boost that integrity. So yeah, but the locking screen that you're asking about specifically, John, is definitely a feature that you'll get notified when that lock screen is ignored by the student, right? So if they try to get out of that lock screen, you are absolutely notified. So you can keep tabs on that. Jonny, maybe this is a question for you. Has Möbius been used for statistics courses so far?
Yeah, I mean, so we have many customers who use Möbius for stats, especially entry-level statistics courses that you would take in university or college, like probability or distribution. We even have a content pack available to help you get up and running with stats content. It's courtesy of OpenStax. So it's a bunch of pre-built material, questions and lessons and assignments you can use to get up and running with creating your stats courses. So my answer at the end of the day is yes, we certainly have many schools use Möbius for stats. And Chelsea, I can answer that other question if you like.
Oh, please do. Yes.
Yeah. So the question came from Mark. He asked, does Möbius have a question type or format that's similar to the Moodle close question type, if I'm pronouncing that right? And I'm going to actually share my screen just for 1 minute. So the answer is yes.
I think I need to stop my share, Johnny. Hang on.
I think it just goes over yours, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, yes, we do. So as a reminder, if you're not familiar, Moodle close is the idea that traditionally you provide the question text and then students respond at the very end. But what if you want them to respond in the middle? Maybe a more embedded nature of responding to a question. That is how Möbius actually is. You can put response areas wherever you want in the question text. So obviously I can put it at the very end here. I could, where my cursor is blinking, I could put a response area, for example, true or false, and click insert, and my response area is at the end. In this case, it behaves like you would expect. I'm speaking to Mark directly, but it's at the end. But maybe you want to put something in the middle. So what I can do here is I'm going to replace for the text with a response area. I'll do a drop down list. Now I'll put 4, which is worth 1.5, and then 6. So insert this, and what I've done is now it's in the middle of my text. And maybe I want to put instead of combat, we're going to put again maybe a fill in the blank. So rather than maybe a drop down menu. So here I can say combat is worth 1 point. Maybe cooking was the second point, and maybe the next one was soccer, for example. I can insert that, and now it's right there in the text itself. And to give you an idea of what this actually means, this is exactly what I mean. It's in the text, and these can be any type of response areas. They can be multiple choice, they could be numeric, they could be math formulas, etc. But to answer your question, Mark, oh yeah, we definitely support it, and more, I would argue, because you can have images and math and all sorts of multimedia embedded all throughout your question text.
That's great. Thanks for the great questions. Thanks for that thorough response, Jonny. Let me quickly take that screen back. We do have some other Q&As, questions that came in, and they're great. Thanks, but we are running out of time, and we will definitely follow up with you after the fact. Another plugin here, though, is if you are a current customer of ours, you can absolutely join the Möbius user community, and you'll have direct access to John himself, and you'll be able to exchange content, ask him any questions that you may have, and you can have real-time conversations with John as well. We have a lot of other wonderful customers on the call who are also in the community. So it is a great resource to get into if you are a current customer. If you can have, again, those real-time conversations and content sharing. So it's a really valuable space. And then, of course, if you have questions for our team, our email is there, marketing@digitaled.com. And we've got our 2 websites there, digitaled.com, and then the grading solutions specific page covers the content from today. And I promised you a bonus, so just got a quick plug in here at the end is what's coming up. So we have some exciting things that the DigitalEd team here is thrilled about, and we've got like we're chomping at the bit here, waiting for these dates to come. So coming up at the end of November is the assignment importer. So this is going to be great again for getting you back to teaching, right? Less time grading, less time spending that, manipulating your questions and authoring content. What you can do is you'll have if you have a docx version of your assessment that has questions in it, you can import that directly into Möbius, and it's going to build the questions in the assessment for you. So some great time savings there. And also coming in the first half of 2024, we've got an amazing plans for an updated user interface. So really streamlining those workflows for you while using Möbius, because we know that everybody's waiting for some changes on that front. Those are coming. They're going to be great. So we are at the hour. Thank you everyone for your attention today. Again, we will follow up with everybody who asked a question that we didn't get to, and we will definitely follow up with the recording. And we've also got some other great resources like some blogs that you might find interesting. So thanks to our panel, John, Carl, Jonny, Stefan. It was wonderful working with you today. Thank you for this time. And thanks to our audience for your attention and engagement. Really appreciate it. And happy teaching. Thanks, everyone.